I'm Nocona Burgess, Comanche, from Oklahoma. Grew up all over the place, currently living in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I think since day one, you know, I mean, when we were kids, my parents got us like drawing pads and pencils and things like that rather than coloring books. Not with any indication or that you're going to be an artist, you know, but just kind of for the creativity, the process of creating your own, kind of grew up around art. So yeah, so just from there, just drawing, and it was never, you know, we were never told you have to paint this or have to paint that, or it was just whatever. Because like for me, growing up, I think I drew cars, football players and things like that. My brother, who's also an artist, drew like superheroes and things like that. So it just kind of evolved over time, you know.
So is your father an artist?
Yeah, he always has been, but he's, you know, he's got like a double master's and a PhD and has been an educator. You know, he's been an art teacher, but he's also been like the president of a college, the chief of the tribe. He's been the founder of a tribal college in Oklahoma. So he's always went toward that aspect. And, but you know, like my grandfather and my great-grandmother was blind, and she did beadwork, you know, so it was always around. And in Native culture, you know, someone's always kind of doing something within the arts, you know, and it was never separated from life. So yeah, I've always been. Yeah, I started out at University of Oklahoma in architecture school, and then I went out to New Mexico one summer, and you know, in architecture school, you're taking drawing classes and art classes and things like that. And I guess I just kind of got hooked onto that. And I went to an art school in New Mexico, the Institute of American Indian Arts. And then I went to the University of New Mexico in arts and finished up with a BFA at the University of Science and Arts in Oklahoma. And just, you know, I was in casino management for a long time and away from the art, but I just one day woke up, kind of had an epiphany and said, hey, I need to get back to my art, and I did, you know, and I just kind of went back to University of Science and Arts, took some class, kind of get back in the groove, and it just started, you know, I just kind of started painting. It took a while to kind of get where it was from getting from here to there, you know, and that's, you know, that's in music and art and anything, you know, ideas. So I just, you know, kind of a roundabout way got back to it, you know, I guess I took the long road. But yeah, and then we just painted and started getting in shows and just kind of start pursuing a little bit more, kind of learn the art world a little bit, and just felt more comfortable with the paintings, and just start doing, you know, just applying for shows and everything, and people seemed to like what I was painting, and it wasn't so much, I just kind of painted what I liked and what I felt. You know, some of the influences I look at are like Wayne Thiebaud and a lot of the San Francisco artists from the 1950s, you know, like Nathan Olivares, and the artists that kind of came from that, like John Nieto and T.C. Cannon, and also like there's an artist named Sebastian Kruger, and just yeah, just things like that. Artists, you know, I constantly read, constantly go to museums, constantly go to shows, so I'm always researching and looking at other art and just kind of getting into their brain a little bit on how they approach surface and canvas and things like that, because I never want to get stagnant. You know, I don't want to be one of those painters that paints the same painting for 20, 30 years, you know, it looks the same over and over, or no formula, you know. I know there's a formula of how you paint, but not, you know, color-wise, scheme-wise, you know. So yeah, so I'm always pushing myself, and I think that's why I have a lot of variety in my art, is because I'm always pushing it, trying to do something new, or I see something and try to get in someone's brain and see how they painted it and figure it all out in the studio. So yeah, so I'm always doing that, you know, and I'm always reading. I think everything's an influence. Even artists that may not necessarily look like what my art is could be an influence just by something I've seen in the corner of a painting, or listening to them talk at an opening or something like that. So yeah, so it's, you know, everything's influential. So, you know, I really like this piece. It's probably like the only second antelope I've done, and I've only been doing animal paintings for just about 2 years. I was living in town in Santa Fe, and you know, it's all about traffic and noise and things like that, and we just moved outside of Santa Fe in a little place called Cochiti Lake. And going out there, it's like you kind of got to see all the animals again, you know, start seeing coyotes and elk and buffalo, and you know, and you're by the lake. And so yeah, it kind of opened my eyes to kind of the reality. And I tell people that I paint my world, you know, so the landscapes are just right outside my window, and the animals are what I see, and then the people are, you know, of course, Native Americans, I paint that. And so I do a lot of, you know, I do a lot of contemporary images, you know, like pop figures like Jimi Hendrix and things like that. But this one here, I just got some great images of antelope, you know, and I just kind of start putting it together, and I just was thinking about the show up here, about the wildlife. So you know, I just kind of painted this, and it just kind of happened all of a sudden, you know. I just kind of put some sketches down and painted on it, kind of made the surface and with some of the area in here to really try to make it look like as if it's kind of running, you know, this way. And I really like to use these kind of different tones. I use a lot of the same, maybe the same color, but a little bit different tones. You know, I like to play with tones rather than colors and, you know, contrast and stuff like that. Because sometimes I think if you took a black and white picture, you almost wouldn't see these, or you wouldn't see these, you know, because tone-wise are the same, but whenever you see them in color, you know, kind of different layers. So yeah, and then I just treat the surface a lot. I use a lot of splattering, you know, and a lot of brush strokes, kind of loose brush strokes. And so I kind of counteract that with the real tight lines, you know, and I kind of have like a lot of movement in the strokes, but then you have these nice crisp edges, you know. So I really like to counteract all of that and then contrast with the dark and the light imagery. So I'm doing acrylics mostly. I mean, I love oil paints, but it's kind of slow, and I really, when I get in the studio, man, I fly. So I really like water-based paints, and I use acrylics, but there's so much materials out there now that you can use with acrylics, you know, a lot of gels and mediums and varnishes and things like that. You can really get the look that you like. And I paint. I mean, I'm not one of those guys that does sculpting or jewelry and all that. I'm a painter, you know. I don't even hardly draw. I mean, if I draw, it's with the paintbrush to kind of get started, or the bare bones minimum, you know, because I'm always kind of was like that even in art school, you know. It's like, let's get to the, you know, the end process. So yeah, so I just paint, dip the brush in paint and kind of go with it, you know. So, and a lot of times I'll paint a few pieces at a time. I think, you know, with the horse and the antelope, I've probably painted them kind of about the same time. You know, and a lot of times you can see where I've done, you know, there might be an abstract or a landscape, and there's similar colors in that there is in a portrait or something like that. And so, yeah, I've got 3 easels in the studio, and a lot of times I'll just line them all up and go, you know, or if I have a lot of paint left over from a previous painting, well, then I'll use that to lay some colors down for the next painting. So, yeah, I just kind of get the canvases ready, and when I have some downtime, I just kind of prime them and gesso them and get them ready to go. And then I get my images, and you know, and like I said, I do a little bit of sketching, just kind of to base, you know, kind of the outline, and the rest is just paint on canvas. And I go and I use everything I get my mitts on, man. I use tape and toothbrushes and razors, and I scrape it, splatter it, drop it, you know, and just rub things on it, rub things out of it. And so, yeah, so I just start laying the paint down, and a lot of the colors I lay forward and backward. So sometimes the color is on top and underneath. So I don't always want the brightest color or the darkest color to be the last color. So I use like colors kind of in between and back and forth. And I take some of the colors that are in here or in here and put them in here, just so there's kind of a relationship of color in between. So, and then anything just to kind of make the surface, you know, more exciting. So, and kind of draw people in. The rewarding part about being an artist is it's just fun. I mean, you can go in the studio kind of and work and paint and create and kind of experiment with ideas and just that whole thing, you know. I mean, in anything, doing what you love. I mean, it's like a doctor that loves his work and enjoys going there. I mean, what better can you get when doing that, you know? I mean, you doing what you like to do, and, you know, Rick and them guys doing what they like to do. If you can do what you love and what you have a passion about, to be passionate about, wake up in the morning and go, oh man, I can't wait to get in there. And that's it, you know. And it took a while for me to appreciate it, because I was doing a lot of other things, you know, and making good money doing other stuff, but it wasn't here, you know. And then when I got this, you know, and then, you know, having people appreciate it and being able to sell and make a living and kind of pay your bills and travel a little bit, I mean, you know, it's a good excuse to come to Jackson Hole and sell paintings. So yeah, you know, and I don't know, just watching people's reaction to art, you know, I like that art is important to people, and I think it is, you know. I mean, I think everything starts with the drawing, you know, designing tennis shoes to buildings, you know, it's always a drawing. So art is, you know, important in the world, and I think it's fun, you know, that you can do what you love and have fun doing it.